Have you ever seen star args in someone else's Python code and wondered exactly what it was doing? This week we'll talk about exactly what that means and how you can use it to further increase the flexibility of your code. Welcome to another MetPy Monday. Hello, I'm John Lehman, a software engineer for Unidata. On this week's MetPy Monday, I want to talk about star args. It's something that I saw in a lot of Python code when I was first getting started and didn't totally understand and didn't really take the time to understand for quite a while, but it's actually a very useful tool. So sort of continuing in the plotting theme that we've been doing, this will be plotting as an example, but I think you'll see how this can greatly make your code more flexible. And then next week, we'll talk some about star quargs and how you can use it to do this similar type thing with keyword arguments. But let's go ahead and do our imports. So I'm going to import pandas as PD, import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, import numpy as NP, use my matplotlib inline magic. And then because I'm going to be plotting some pandas datetime things, we need to register pandas matplotlib datetime converters. This used to be done automatically. Now you'll get a warning that soon it's not going to be. So we're going to go ahead and do it the way that we're going to have to in the future to keep that warning from coming up. So from pandas.plotting, import register matplotlib converters. And then we're going to go ahead and call register matplotlib converters. You only have to do this once in your program or notebook. Okay, so now we're going to make some fake data. This should be getting very familiar by now, but we're going to throw in one new thing. In this case, I actually want some real times. So we're going to make a dictionary. Time is our key. I'm going to use the date range functionality from pandas. This is a very versatile function, so definitely go check out the docs. But I'm going to give it a start pandas date time object of today. So that is the 4th of November, 2019. It will default to 0Z. I'm going to say I want 100 time periods. I could also specify an end instead of the number of periods. And a frequency. I want once per hour. So these will be hourly observations. Could make it minute, month, whatever we wanted. Okay, so now that we've got time, we're going to need something like temperature. So for that, we'll go back to using our random.random. Length of 100 and offset it. And so we don't have to keep typing that, and we're just making some data. I'm going to copy and paste that for temperature, humidity, solar radiation, and pressure. So I'll go back and change this temperature, humidity. We'll call this one solar and pressure. I'll go ahead and change my offsets here just so things are in different ranges and we know we're indeed plotting the correct thing. Okay, so barring any syntax errors, there we go, we have our data frame. If we look at our data frame, we see that I have things that are changing by 1 hour starting at 0Z on November 4th, exactly what I asked for. So I'm going to make a generic plot data function. And let's say that I've got different stations with different values. Some stations have soil moisture sensors, maybe. Some stations have ground temperature sensors. Some stations have a black globe temperature for doing heat stress, different sensors. So I want one function I'm going to tell it what parameters I want plotted, and it will do that plot for me. Now you could combine this with some of the topics that we've talked about in the last few weeks and make a very advanced plotting function, but we're going to keep it simple because we're just looking at what does star args do. So my function is going to be plot data. It's going to take a data frame, the name of the time column, and star args. So what this says is my user can pass me any number of positional arguments. So they'll be retained in the order that they're given, and somebody can pass as many as they want. So this would be things like I can pass however many numbers I want, and this function would return the sum of them. So that's a pretty simple and sort of toy example. This is great if your user is passing, say, the levels from a field or from a model, and then some arbitrary set of model parameters after that. You'll find a lot of places to use this as you try to make your code more generic and reuse more of your code. Okay, so my plot data function, I'm going to create a figure and an array of axes using subplots, plot.subplots. In rows is going to be len of args. So args is going to turn into a tuple of the arguments that our user passes us. I want them to share x, since they're all going to have the same time axes. Then I'm going to use the enumerate trick that we've used in a past MetPy Monday here. So I'm going to say for I, arg, and enumerate args, axes I, so retrieving whichever axis number from our array of axes, dot plot, df, time call, df, arg, so the name of the column that we're going to plot, axes I dot set y label to arg, the name of the field. So it's pretty simple. Let's kick the tires on it. I'm going to call plot data with my data frame name, the name of my time column, and then let's give it a couple of data column names, temperature and humidity. There we go. We have a temperature and a humidity plot. Now if I add solar, we have 3 plots. So I can change the number of arguments that I'm passing here. Instead of passing, say, a list of the parameters to plot, which would be another way to design your function, depends on what the end goal, end functionality, and user interface you want is. So I could even add another. I could add pressure. And this could go on and on. The key thing, though, is that these are positional arguments. So I can go through and take pressure out. I'm going to put it up here. And now pressure is the first thing in my plot. I can't have any other keyword arguments, at least right now, after this easily. But we've got a problem. And this is as you start testing and playing with it, maybe I only want to make a pressure plot for a station. I get a type error because we're only getting one axis back, and I'm trying to access an element from an array of axes. So the quick way to fix this would be something like if len of args is 1, then we're going to make axes a list with one element of the axes object that was returned. Now it works with 1, or we can go back and add temperature, humidity. That if statement won't run, and then it works as it did before. So args is just a really handy way to allow your user to pass you any number of positional arguments to a function that you've written. It's great for making plotting code extensible. For example, in matplotlib, you can pass multiple XY pairs to a single plot.plot call. That would be done with something like args, for example. So next week, we'll talk about how to do the same thing with keyword argument, which I think is where things get really powerful because you can allow your user to pass you keyword arguments that you're not going to use. You're just going to pass along to something else that you're calling internally. So I hope that you found this useful, and I'll see you on next week's MetPy Monday.